Remember this image? What if I told you the sequence of the events right here in a half-empty stadium changed the history of football forever? How about if I told you that Neal Maupay changed Lionel Messi's life? Let me paint a picture for you. It is the height of COVID football, and Arsenal are playing Brighton at the Annex Stadium. This is peak COVID Arsenal we're talking about. You had Lacazette, Aubameyang, Leno, Robben and Mustafi. In the 40th minute of the game, Neal Maupay just clatters into Bernd Leno, and Leno goes down injured and he's stretched off. On the bench about to come onto the field is some guy called Emiliano Martínez. This unknown guy at the time had been a perennial backup goalkeeper for 10 years at Arsenal, with only 6 league appearances and hundreds of loan spells. I'm sure you already know where the story is going by now. With Leno out for a long time, Emi Martinez turns into a superkeeper all of a sudden, helping Arsenal to win the FA Cup. That's Arteta's only trophy so far, by the way. And yes, the Community Shield is literally a tin pot cup.
Chance for silverware.
Well, the Charity Shield as well twice, no? So it's 3, yeah.
At 2021, Martinez becomes Argentina's #1 and helps Lionel Messi win his first ever international trophy for Argentina. Guess what country Neal Maupay is from? He's from France. Without Neal Maupay, Argentina would have lost the World Cup final to France. Football is unpredictable. Change one detail and the whole thing looks completely different. That's why we love it. In the history of football, there are many what-if moments. If you want to be technical about it, every missed goal is an occurrence of chance. Every misplaced pass, every save can change history. But I've narrowed down the top 10 biggest what-if moments based on historical impact and how they changed the entire landscape. The last one will definitely shock you. Kolo Muani's chance at the 2022 World Cup final. Of course, what better place to start than the butterfly effect of Neal Maupay injuring Bernd Leno? So, after Messi dragged Argentina through the chaotic tournament, he was finally one game away for putting his hands on the object of his heart desires. For Messi, this was not his first rodeo, as he had been to the World Cup final before in 2014, but this was most likely the twilight of his international career. The final swung wildly between two giants, with Argentina taking control in the early stages. Mbappe was dragging France back from the dead with an all-time performance. And then, the chance that made the whole world gasp in collective shock. With the entire world watching, he had the chance to shatter Argentina's dream and crown France as back-to-back World Cup winners. As he shoots, Emi Martínez stretched his leg as wide as possible to block the shot from point-blank range, and in that split second, Argentina was saved. Martinez then went on to put an all-time performance in the penalty shootout to win the trophy for Argentina. If Kolo Muani had scored, France would have become the most decorated national team of the modern era. Mbappe would have won the Ballon d'Or, and Messi's legacy was still being questioned as the man who choked the World Cup twice. Zidane's red card at the 2006 World Cup final. The 2006 World Cup was said to be the perfect farewell for Zinedine Zidane. He had already delivered the World Cup in 1998, so this was meant to be an extra feather in his cap. As the script demanded, Zidane opened the scoring with an audacious penalty. Then Materazzi equalized later, but in extra time, the camera panned to Marco Materazzi sprawling on the floor and clutching his chest. Red card for Zidane. Wait, Zidane? Red card? This can't be happening in the World Cup final. This was not part of the script. Something was definitely off. It was not until the replay was shown that the whole world watched in shock. The image of Zidane walking past the World Cup trophy with his head hanging in shame in the very last game of his career is still one of the most iconic images in football history. Had Zidane kept his cool, France may have that extra edge in the penalty shootout. The image that lingers isn't that of Zidane lifting the trophy, but of him walking past it into retirement. Zidane would have definitely won the Ballon d'Or instead of Fabio Cannavaro. But I'm not saying that Cannavaro didn't deserve it. But come on now. It's Zinedine Zidane we're talking about here. A Samoa Gyan's penalty at the 2010 World Cup. Still on the topic of World Cup heartbreak, let me take you back to the quarter-final match in 2010 between Ghana and Uruguay. Ghana is carrying the hopes of the entire continent on its back. With the game tied 1-1 in extra time, Ghana gets a golden chance to score into an open net. But Luis Suarez was not gonna let that happen. In utter desperation, he punches the ball away onto the goal line with both hands. Stonewall penalty. Ghana had the opportunity to win the game on the spot. They had a chance to become the first African country to reach the semis. This time for Africa. This time for Ghana. Up steps Gyan and boom! The ball hits the crossbar and goes out for a goal kick. The entire stadium just went silent. Even the vuvuzelas stopped buzzing for once the entire month. If the ball goes in, African football writes a new chapter. Instead, the wait stretched on for 12 more years until Morocco finally defeated Portugal to become the first African and Arab team to reach the World Cup semi-final. Gyan went from potential African hero to dream killer. If he scored, Africa would make a semi-final on African soil. But Suarez becomes public enemy number 1 in Accra.
Suarez, this way! Suarez, this way!
Ramos' header at the 2014 Champions League final. The concept of Atletico Madrid making it to the Champions League final was like seeing a grizzly bear in Accra, Ghana. But here they were, playing against internal rivals Real Madrid, and less than a minute away from their first ever Champions League title. The cameras kept panning to the bench in anticipation of Atletico Madrid's celebration, but not so fast. Luka Modric was about to take a corner, and would you know it, Sergio Ramos leaps highest to break the unbreakable Atletico defense to score the equalizer in the 93rd minute. Real Madrid went on to demolish the already demoralized Atletico Madrid 4-1, and the story became La Decimal. If Ramos hadn't scored, Atletico would have changed their club's history. Instead of being nearly men, they would have been European champions, and Real Madrid's obsession with La Decimal would have dragged on. Aguero's goal on the final day of the 2012 Premier League. It is the final day of the 2012 Premier League season. Both Manchester City and Manchester United were neck and neck in the title race. Anything less than a draw for Manchester City meant that the title will go to Manchester United. With the game at the Etihad tied at 2-2, Manchester United were already the de facto champions after beating Sunderland. So since the results were in their favour deep into stoppage time at the Etihad, United players started taking victory laps around the Stadium of Light. Then, with virtually the last kick of the game, Sergio Agüero delivered a dagger to complete the comeback and knock Manchester United off their perch. The look on Fergie's face, priceless. Just look at the shock on Phil Jones's face when he realized what had just happened. It was all over. Manchester City were no longer the noisy neighbors. Even though Manchester City went on to win the league the following year, they have remained in City's shadow ever since then. If Aguero had missed that goal, Manchester City might have collapsed or at least had to wait a few more years to win the Premier League. Robben van Persie would have stayed at Arsenal instead of winning the league with United the following year. Steven Gerrard slipped against Chelsea in 2014. Speaking of winning the Premier League, some what-if moments don't just decide a season, they define a career. Steven Gerrard had done everything for Liverpool, through game-defining goals and historic European nights like the glory of Istanbul. Despite his numerous successes, the Premier League trophy was missing from his impressive trophy cabinet. In 2014, Liverpool assembled an insane attack with Steven Gerrard, Luis Suarez, and Daniel Sturridge. The Premier League title was within reach. Then came Chelsea to Anfield. In an uncharacteristic misjudgment, Steven Gerrard slipped and lost the ball, and in a flash, Demba Ba was running through on goal to score for Chelsea. After losing the game 2-0 to Chelsea, Liverpool crumbled mentally and basically went on to choke 3-3 at Selhurst Park, effectively surrendering the league to Manchester City. Had Gerrard stayed on his feet, Liverpool might have ended their drought 6 years earlier. Gerrard would have lifted the one trophy that eluded him, and his status as a Premier League legend might have overshadowed Frank Lampard. Leicester City's sex tape in 2015. What if I told you that a racist sex tape helped Leicester City win the league?
What?
Sounds nuts, right? But check out this crazy story. Before the fairy tale in 2016, Leicester City were relegation fodder in the Premier League. They were at the bottom of the table and barely managed to stay up. So for pre-season, the club traveled to Bangkok in Thailand for a couple of friendlies. Well. During this Thailand trip, 3 Leicester City players, Tom Hopper, Adam Smith, and James Pearson, who was the son of coach Nigel Pearson, made a sex tape in which they also managed to racially abuse the women. As a result of the scandal, Nigel Pearson lost his job as the manager, and Claudio Ranieri joined as his replacement. Well, you know the rest of the story. If not for that sex tape, we would have been denied the sensation that was Leicester City winning the Premier League in 2016.
Dilly ding, dilly dong, come on!
John Terry's penalty at the 2008 Champions League final. Chelsea and Manchester United were locked in the Champions League final in Moscow in pouring rain. Roman Abramovich was probably already picturing himself lifting the trophy through John Terry's hands. After Ronaldo's penalty miss, the final kick came down to John Terry, Captain Fantastic. One kick to win Chelsea's first ever Champions League trophy. But in a cruel twist of fate, the ever-reliable John Terry slipped and smacked the ball into the post. Then Anelka went on to miss the deciding penalty kick to put the final nail in Chelsea's coffin. Manchester United, their arch-rivals, lifted the trophy and their last ever Champions League trophy. If Terry had scored that goal, Chelsea would have become European champions and denied Manchester United their third UCL trophy. John Terry is the reason why Michael Ballack has no Champions League trophy in the list of his accolades. Robben's misses at the 2010 World Cup final. The 2010 World Cup final featured two teams that had never won the trophy before. Spain were European champions with their mesmerizing tiki-taka style, which was still new at the time. But the Dutch attack was just insane. This was Netherlands' third attempt at winning the World Cup final, after failing twice in 1974 and 1978. Even with all the world-class players and legends the country produced, things never went their way at the World Cup. This time around, it looked like the stars had aligned, with Wesley Sneijder coming off a Champions League triumph and Robin van Persie in the form of his life. At 0-0, Arjen Robben busts through on goal. As he takes the shot, Iker Casillas sticks out his foot and the ball rolls wide. Moments later, Andrés Iniesta scores the winner in extra time and Spain became world champions. This basically ended the Dutch golden generation and extended Spain's period of dominance in world football for 2 more years. Barcelona choosing Mourinho over Guardiola. Before all the fights and mind games, before all the eye pokes and haram football masterclass, Barcelona was home to Jose Mourinho. He came to the club as Brian Robson's translator before transitioning to Louis van Gaal's assistant in the late 90s. I have to be honest, seeing pictures of Mourinho as the coach chatting with club captain Pep Guardiola just feels surreal. But yes, they used to be friends at some point. Mourinho left Barcelona in 2000 to finally prove himself as a head coach. By 2004, he was already running down the touchline at Old Trafford and lifting the Champions League with Porto. So, with his experience in management, Mourinho joined Chelsea and also proved that he was able to compete with top dogs Wenger and Sir Alex.
So I'm not one of the bottle. I think I'm a special one.
Fast forward to 2008, and Barcelona is looking for a new manager. You would think that the board would go for a world-class manager with an unquestionable history of winning and understanding of what Barcelona is. But for some reason, they decided to snub Mourinho and choose Guardiola instead, who was still the B-team coach with Tito Villanova. Mourinho not getting the Barca job also gave us some of the spiciest El Clásicos of all time. It turned Madrid vs Barcelona into an actual soap opera. Epic press conferences, fights on the pitch, horror tackles, iconic celebrations, eye pokes. Man, we got it all. So let's take some honorable mentions that are worth talking about. Remember when David De Gea was about to become Real Madrid's next Galactical? Everything was agreed, papers signed and delivered, but there was one problem. The fax machine at Manchester United head office didn't set out the documents in time.
Real Madrid and Manchester United have both blamed each other for the collapse of the David De Gea deal.
Had it worked, De Gea would have won 3 Champions Leagues and a handful of La Liga titles. Instead, he stayed at United, won some FA Cups and got shipped off to Fiorentina. Life could be unfair sometimes.